Kia ora. Welcome back to our council meeting for Wednesday the 14th of May 2025, and we carry on with item 8. And this time, colleagues, we're into operating programs, and we have a number of additional recommendations, and we'll kick off with and this is in reference to attachment 4, and we have and this is around removing program 1539 City Ambassadors for 75,000, and I'll go to Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll just speak briefly. I recall during the campaign 3 years ago, this was a common program referred to in line as an example of not crucial council spending. I haven't proposed reducing it for the last 2 years because I've appreciated the need of additional eyes on the street in effect for our retailers in the community. But times have changed in the last few years. We've had a 40% increase across the country in beat cops out in the community, and in our local community we've had beat cops who've been out working with our retailers and working with our people on the streets to make sure that we've got a sense of safety in our community. And so I think it's time that we review this program and at this council table decide whether or not we believe it's necessary. And my view would be that it served a good purpose, but it's time that we review and wound it down. I look forward to the debate.
Councillor Hancock.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and yes, it doesn't surprise me that I'm having to stand and actually speak against the proposal to remove the program from the annual budget. This is a proposed cut, again without any stakeholder engagement, and those stakeholders are retailers, police, the BID, and also the Chamber of Commerce, to name a few. During the break at morning tea time, I spoke to Shane from Youthline, who was the contractor for last summer's program, and he was quite dismayed and quite upset that this is likely to be on the chopping block. I think aghast would describe his feelings. So the ambassadors support our visitors to the city, which in turn supports our retailers, and they also create a connection between the city and our younger people. In the last few years, we have all been made acutely aware of some of the issues with young people with dysfunctional behaviour within our CBD, and of course the issues that has caused. The Ambassador program has been part of the solution to that, and it has made an incredible difference to the vibe within our CBD. So I would suggest that at this point in time it's very premature to cut this program from the budget. It would be short-sighted, and I think we need to vote against it. Thank you.
Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I haven't always been a fan of this programme. Many of you will know I've struggled to see the purpose of it. I thought it was probably work the police should be doing, and should it be an expense that sits with our ratepayers. But I did spend some time over this summer with the city ambassadors and the programme they were delivering. And I think it's a very narrow read of their work to suggest it's no longer necessary because we have more beat cops, and I'm not going to debate whether that's in actual fact true or not, but that's not the whole purpose of this programme. It is about safety, but it's also about vibrancy, creativity, a strong sense of place, engagement with our diverse communities. You know, at the events I attended this summer, that they're running pop-up in the square, I was amazed every time at the different people I saw using public space, establishing themselves in that third space that we talk about, where people make places safer by having people in them. And we all know that our central city is a big space. The square can be quite overwhelming, can sometimes feel unsafe just because it's empty and people struggle to move through the space. They move their car around instead to avoid having to walk through the square, those kind of things that we see. And I was really impressed with the work the city ambassadors were doing to engage with different groups of people to engage with the retail community, the hospitality community, and our wider social network, and curate spaces that made people feel safe and encourage them to be in our central city and to stay there, driving that economic output. So I'm actually not going to support removing this programme. I have changed my mind somewhat and come to see the value of it in a way I didn't before due to having spent time with them over the summer.
Councillor Naylor.
Thank you. Excuse me. I will support this. I'm obviously seconding it. The question here is not is whether it's of value. I'm sure there is value of having people in the CBD. Last week the Mayor suggested, we should stay in our lane. And I do wonder if this is specifically, core service for us or whether this should sit elsewhere. If it is core service for us, my understanding is that when the bid was set up, that if they felt that there were priorities like this, that would be funded through their levy. And it's surprised me a little bit, the number of things that have still come through to fund separately through our long-term plan and annual budget. This is one of those, and the question is not is it of any value, but is it of enough value for those who are saying they're struggling to fund it to continue. So I'm supportive of removing this. In particular, if the bid continue to feel that it's worthwhile, then they can certainly fund it through their levy.
Deputy Mayor.
Tēnā koe, Your Worship. I won't support this because I believe that the city ambassadors provide a fantastic service. We have young people out there. It's safety, another set of eyes. We don't have enough police. We've been watching the news. They don't even have enough nationally. They can't even reach the targets. Why would we think in Palmerston North that we would get more people more police officers to cover this area when they can't even get them in Auckland, Wellington or Christchurch? It is about defending and protecting our people. Having been brought up here, grown up here, my children and so forth, there's never been a time when I haven't worried about Te Marae o Hine and the square. Every year there is something. Last year we had a group of sports people come to Palmerston North, young people, I think there might have been about 1,500, 2,000, and there was an incident that happened, and I was acting mayor at the time, and I had to deal with that situation, and it was a very serious one that saw the young person who was visiting Palmerston North in hospital. I had to make calls to his principal somewhere down the line, and also speak with the committee who had done a fantastic job. But it just alerts you to the dangers that there are. In saying that, like Councillor Bowen, I got to see the city ambassadors over the holiday break, the summer break, and I just saw vibrancy wherever they went, the interaction, the talking with and socialising with other people, young and old, I thought added an element of what we want within our own goals that we've stated for our city. So, yes, it would be nice if others paid for that, but it's not going to happen. And I do think they're of value, huge value. So I'm very supportive of keeping the city ambassadors for that reason. Kia ora.
Right, a reply? No. Okay, we'll go to the vote, please, on aye. And that has failed. 3 votes for and 11 against. Somebody hasn't voted. Okay, 3-12. Councillor Hapata is absent at the moment. All right. Okay, we go to our next one, which is J. and this is around deferring program 1949, the Civic and Cultural Precinct, of 82,000 to the 26-27 annual budget. Councillor Naylor.
Thank you. Through the submissions, we've been urged to defer non-essential or non-urgent items, and I believe this is one that I'd put in that category. It is important work to be done at some stage, but I don't think that there would be any harm in waiting for a year.
Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I disagree. I think the officer's comments were that the procurement process was well advanced and contract details have been finalised even this week. This programme is starting to feel like my entire life's work. We have been going round and round in circles on this for the best part of a decade. I would really, really like us to stop kicking this can down the road and actually start to make some progress. This is a small part of the budget, but it's absolutely fundamental to getting the right planning in place and identifying partners that we can work with to do this work once we've taken the steps necessary. So, colleagues, please keep this programme in this year. Thank you.
Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This programme's already started and failed twice, and with major changes coming down the pipeline to our earthquake and seismically prone building legislation, given the key driver of this programme is needing to renew the library and Te Manua due to them being seismically prone, I would much rather wait until we know what the outcome of that legislation review is before we invest $82,000 starting this for a third time. So I think this is a sensible reason to pause for a year and then see where we get to.
Colleagues, I won't support this. I do have some sympathy with the mover and seconder around earthquake-prone legislation, but that's only part of doing this work. That's actually almost a side issue of it. You get judged sometimes on what your city centre looks like, and you don't want to go down the donut aspect where you've got vibrancy happening all around a dead city centre. And I took exception when I saw a former real estate agent, and I say the word former, in the paper calling the city centre having decay. Now, deferring this will play into the hands of some of those naysayers. How do you think Safari Group got here in spending nearly 60 million on the hotel? I just had the developer in here talking about another project in our city. He operates all over New Zealand. We need to send the right signals to partners and I appreciate this is the third attempt at this, but it's big stuff. It really is. It's city shaping, and you've got to have a plan. And I think deferring it for another 12 months, or effectively 15 months really, will do us for 82,000. I think we'll lose 8 million. And perhaps lost opportunities and certainly progress. So although I can see some of the reasons why, I do think we need to plough on, and even more so that we've now got a team that are really trying to drive this ahead too. So I think it would be foolish to defer this one, but I've got open minds on some of the other stuff, so I won't be supporting this. Back to you, Councillor, if you no. Okay, all right, we'll vote, please. All right, that's failed. 4 votes for and 11 against. All right, we come to K, and this is around removing program 1180, the focus group research of $20,000. And this is from Councillor Naylor and seconded by Councillor Wood. Councillor Naylor.
This is a relatively small program, 20,000, but $20,000 is still $20,000. The reason I've put this forward though is because it's an additional scope to the resident survey that we've not had before. The resident survey is already a very comprehensive piece of work, and that costs, I can't remember how much that cost us, but quite a bit each time. So I think this is a completely unnecessary added option to that process, so I'd urge you to support reducing this.
Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Colleagues, just an alternative perspective on that. I remember some interesting discussion and debate around the most recently received resident survey, querying sample sizes and demographics and how representative it was, and ultimately how shallow it is to just have simply a survey result that doesn't actually dive into some of the deeper issues that might come through those sorts of things. And it was from that discussion that we actually came to the view that including this in the draft budget would make sense, so that we don't just have a quantitative lens over some very complex areas, but we begin to bring some qualitative information in as well to inform the decision. So I'd urge folks to vote this down so that we can begin to incorporate that community voice more strongly into the resident survey.
Right to reply? Okay, we will vote, please. And that has failed, 6 votes for, and I'm not there. And I was, is it me? Yeah, I was against. 6 votes for and 9 against. All right, we move through now to the next one, which I think is digital. Yeah, so we're now looking to L, which is deferring 250,000 off program 1520 digital transformation to 26-27 year. Moved by Councillor Naylor, seconded by Councillor Wood. Councillor Naylor.
Thank you. There is quite a bit of information in tranche 4 answers to questions that came through yesterday. Now, this is a program that used to be 2.2 million in our draft annual budget and has become 3.2 million because of about $1 million carry forward. I asked officers what would be the impact of deferring $1 million to push it towards the following year, but given that there was only 1 million the following year, just to try and spread the cost. They came back with a suggestion. They said officers would advise against deferring the full carry forward, however, could suggest that 250,000 could be deferred as if this deferred portion of the budget is required. Anyway, they've said that they've recommended that as an option. So I felt, given that advice that had come back, that could be at least a sensible way just to spread the cost of that program, given that it's obviously a little bit behind, given that there's a million carry forward, rather than having the full 3.2 million cost of that this year, then that would make that just over 3 million.
Can I just ask that I got a very mixed message from the officers when that question was asked, and I'm just not sure on what the answer was. So if we were to take this $250,000 out, what does it actually do to the program? I got some mixed messages there. Can somebody answer that? Does it delay it? Do we delay it by a year? Do we half stop it? What happens?
Through Mr. Mayor, there's a couple of things in this one. One would be, yes, essentially it slows down some aspects of that program. The other is this is also on the professional services line for which you've already agreed to reduce. So I'm just wondering whether you've already asked us to consider what the makeup of professional services look like, given that digital transformation was the reason for the increase in the first place.
All right. Okay, thank you for that. Look, I'm going to make the call. I'm not going to support this because we've already made a cut to professional services. Ironically, I am opening the AI and digital transformation work with partners tomorrow morning, and I think it would be incredibly disingenuous of me to go to that and open it, and we've just cut his budget. So I'm of the view that I think there's some risk here. I don't know entirely what is going to be happening with the full budget, but I think there's too much risk to do to just chop it without knowledge. So I'm going to oppose this. Okay, back to you, Councillor, for right to reply.
I'm certainly not interested in cutting something without knowledge either, but we've been given about 2/3 of a page of information here in our answers to questions, and that's been quite reassuring to me. The budget we had included when we consulted on the annual budget was 2.2 million, so we're not actually cutting it, we're increasing it to 3, but we're just not increasing it to 3.2. The options that were very clear in the paper that came to us last week when the officers talked about deferrals was that we did have the choice of what to do with those referrals, whether to bring them all in, whether to bring some in, or whether to bring none in. I don't see that anyone has shown any interest in anything other than bringing it all in. I think we've got to be a little bit sensible about this. If the full work hasn't been done last year, why would we think we can do last year's portion and all of next year's portion? So given that the officers had suggested that 250 could be deferred, and the added comment is that if for any reason that they needed that deferred portion, then a paper would come to council and that would be brought at the appropriate time requesting this money. So there's always that option available to officers. They've identified that as part of this answer to this question. I think it's ridiculous for us simply to add on all of the carry forwards and think we're going to do all of a whole year's work plus $1 million worth of what didn't get done last year.
All right, colleagues, we will vote on deferring 250,000 of digital. Thank you. That is passed, 8 votes for, 7 against. Oh, it's going to be an interesting conversation tomorrow morning. All right. All right, we come to M now, that council create a new operating for funding $7,500 to Marlborough for the 25-26 year to enable them to retain space in Hancock Community House. And that's moved by Councillor Johnson, seconded by Councillor Barr. Councillor Johnson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. This is my only request for additional funding in this budget, and it's not very much additional funding at that. So let me explain why I'm putting it forward. Marlborough, the Manawatu Lesbian and Gay Rights Association, it's the oldest association of that type in New Zealand. It's been around since 1977. They were previously funded for a small amount from us through the strategic priority grants. They missed out this year, and had that funding that they missed out on, had that gone to another group to support the Rainbow community in Palmerston North, I wouldn't be here now suggesting that we need to give them some funding. But it didn't, and it seems to me that it's not right that we would not give any support to a group to provide social support for members of the Rainbow community. For those who didn't know, we are actually the fourth, we've got the fourth largest percentage of people that identify as a member of the Rainbow community in Palmerston North in the country. And at the moment, Marlborough have a small office in Hancock Community House where people can book an appointment to go in for a chat, to pick up resources, or to order an HIV self-test. And the $7,500 would cover the rent for 1 year for that office. So I think it's really important that Marlborough have a base, they have somewhere that people can visit, that it's not just working out of someone's garage or spare room. There has been some talk about they might be eligible for $15,000 from the Community Initiatives Fund. Councillor Dennis, I think, asked some questions about that. My understanding is that the money from the Community Initiatives Fund, should they be successful, would be for wages for a staff member. Now, it doesn't make sense to have a staff member and no office. So I think what I would suggest is that we give 1 year's funding, which will see them over for the next year in terms of paying the rent. It will give them the opportunity to apply for other funding. It will enable us to see if they are successful in the Community Initiatives Fund, because that hasn't been determined yet. And it will enable us as a council to show our support for a significant proportion of our population, actually, who can be quite vulnerable, certainly experience discrimination and adverse outcomes in many areas of life. So I would urge your support for this very small amount of extra funding. Thank you.
Councillor Finlay.
Just a question, Mr Mayor. The $15,000 that they're getting from the other fund, or applying for the other fund, do we know that's just for wages? Is that clarified?
Can anybody on officers answer that?
Kia ora, Steve Felvin, Manager Community Development. We haven't received the application as yet, so we don't have confirmation of what that budget breakdown or proposal might be. The intent certainly is that that would primarily go towards additional capacity for the organisation.
Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thanks, Steph, for that confirmation. I think we all know in the community funding space that it's easier, nothing is easy in that space, but easier to get funding for programmes, very hard to get funding for kind of your operational expenses. And I think it wouldn't be a surprise to me that Marlborough was falling into that category. There's work to be done and they'll need support to do it, and our community development team are very capable in that regard. But just to add to Councillor Johnson's comments, I think it's not only important that they have an office for Marlborough as an organisation, it's actually important that it's in Hancock Community House. It's important that it's a safe space. This is a very marginalised and at-risk community, potentially. Some of the members of that community, they wouldn't be able to access a service that was running from somebody's garage or somebody's spare bedroom. That just wouldn't be appropriate. And so what we're enabling here is an appropriate solution to a gap in funding for a very short time and a very small amount of money.
Councillor Naylor.
Thank you. Yes, this is a relatively small amount of money. However, there is a principle that two of the previous speakers have often advocated around this table, is that the SPG process is one that we've handed over to staff deliberately to keep it at arm's length so that it's not political. And I support that. And so what's being proposed today is quite inconsistent with what two colleagues have advocated strongly in the past. I think what that does is opens us up to huge risk that every single group that is unsuccessful through the SPG process may well go through a whole lobby process, and we might get 100 emails a day from them until we buckle and say yes. So I think for that reason I won't be supporting this, as well as the fact that we have had some assurance from the Community Development Manager today that they're very likely to be successful through some other funds which will be helpful for them. So I don't think they're by any means not being supported by Council at the moment.
Councillor Wood.
A question, if I may, Mr Mayor. I just want to understand, given that we own Hancock House, that this is effectively a money go round because we're paying it to them who then pay it back to us. So is that correct?
That's correct.
Cool. Well, on that basis, I'll support this recommendation.
Right, a reply, Councillor.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just in terms of whether or not this is a breach of process, whether or not I've ever argued for additional funding for another community group, yes, I absolutely have. And some of you will remember when Women's Health Collective were at risk of going under, we gave them a one-off grant through the annual budget process, and I argued strongly for it, and I believe Councillor Barrett backed me up. We've given grants to life-saving at Himatangi. I think that was only last year. I supported that as well. And we've also given grants to the Rugby Museum when they missed out on applying for strategic priority grants because they didn't know the process. So Is this setting a precedent? I don't think so. It's been done before. Would I be supporting every application from every group that wanted additional funding? Absolutely not. And I'll give you an example. Manawatu Tenants Union have asked for extra funding. I've not put that forward because they have got some funding through the Strategic Priority Grant. But Marlborough missed out, and I feel that they represent a very vulnerable community. We're not funding that community in any other respect through council funds, and I think it's important to show our support. And as an ally of the Rainbow community, I'm standing here asking for your support. Thank you.
All right, councillors, we will vote on M. And that is passed 10 votes, 4 and 5 against. Sorry, Councillor Bowen, you're still in the queue there. Yeah, thank you. All right, next one's N, and this is one's from me. So apologies that I've added to your day, but I thought this was pretty important. And this was supporting the submission from Palmerston and the Deputy Mayor's just stepping out because she's employed by them. Thank you. And yeah, Councillor Harper has actually left the chamber, so I need somebody in the room. Thank you, Councillor Bowen. And this is around supporting the submission around community use of the hockey turf project at the school. And it's around creating a new operating program to provide some civic support towards the hockey turf project of $33,500 in 25-26 year, and referring it to of the same amount to the next LTP 26-27, 27-28 annual budget processes. Colleagues, I don't think it really needs a huge amount of explanation, in that we're providing a small amount of support, civic support. Anybody that's been in these projects and knows how they work, the first thing the funders ask is, where's the city or the civic part in this? It is our largest school. It's actually the largest school in Lower North Island. I didn't know that. And it's got a good track record of working with our community. Its examples of that are the school pool and also the Spears Centre. And anybody that's been in swimming or in the performing arts will know that they stand by their word in the sense of allowing others to come in and use the facilities. They're getting no support because of the way the Ministry of Education funding is arranged, so this is totally reliant on community fundraising. I think it's a good bang for buck in terms of allowing our sport of hockey to have access to another turf. It allows us to get into another level of providing tournaments. We're strong in the code or the sport, and it is a relatively small price to get. And I think one of the other councillors said we put $1 up and we turn it into X amount of dollars. The project's worth 2.6 million, so that the 100-odd thousand that we would put over 3 years would go a long way to helping them gain the rest of that money. I'll open it up for comments. Councillor Naylor.
I'm sorry, but $100,000 is simply not a small amount of support, not to those who are funding it. And I think they've made it really clear not for us not to be adding and adding and adding to what is already quite a burdensome rates increase for them. So no, I can't support this. Particularly, the school is a well-resourced school. I think we need to draw the line. We are already investing significantly in the community in various ways, including in sports areas. So no, I can't support this.
Councillor Bowen.
Yes, thank you. I did have some concerns about this one, so I had a chat to Sport Manawatu about it. Their view, if there was a hockey turf proposal, it probably wouldn't pass muster under our own processes to get across our regional facilities line, but that's not what this is. This is a community project that will add to a sport add to facilities for a sport that's in high demand. Their informal comment was that this seemed like a good idea. So yeah, on that basis, and bearing in mind if they don't raise the money, I'm sure they'll be giving it back. So we're not putting money in on the off chance that something happens. We're co-investing with a trusted partner in the city to increase our facilities, which also play into that secondary school sports area, which we're very strong in, has high economic return to the community. I think this is actually a good investment rather than just a cost.
Councillor Ballin.
Thank you. I did take a consistent line through the LTP that I do not see that we have a strong social mandate to contribute to the building of new facilities being built by someone else. And I don't think that that situation has changed, notwithstanding all that is good and wonderful about this project and all the returns it would deliver. I won't support it on that basis, that I don't think we have a licence to contribute to the building of new facilities that aren't ours.
Councillor Dennison.
First off, Mr Mayor, just to confirm, it was saying that we're committing 100,000, but actually those outer years being referred to the projects are only draft annual plan processes. And so I just really wanted to draw a differentiation that we're talking about 33,500. The rest is unconfirmed. We can't confirm outer years in an annual budget. So, and with these multi-year suggestions being referred to those processes, they're still up for consultation and confirmation. So the size of this, I think, when we're talking about other school projects, we have done this in the past with swimming, with aquatics, where we can't, as a city, afford to invest the total sum and take the responsibilities of an asset in that way. We have our own twin turfs, and it's true that we have national hockey tournaments that have tournaments the size where teams are travelling to Horowhenua and the like to get enough facilities. They do draw a large numbers to national tournaments and to the likes of old-timers tournaments and the like. That's one of the biggest tournaments we have here in the city, actually. And so Boys High are a key stakeholder in the city. They are a large school, and they do produce a lot of athletes through the elite pathway into the national program in every code. And so this one here, while it's not exclusively with Boys High, I know that they've had some conversations with their neighbouring school, and when they come through, they expect a lot of their old ex-pupils to contribute to this program. And as we know, any project with civic funding towards it is going to be more likely to attract the other grant and philanthropic contributions. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've spent some time thinking about why I'm inclined to support this project and whether it's just the factor that I was a student there somewhat more recently than the Mayor. And I've come to the conclusion for two particular reasons why I am prepared to support $33,500 in this year. To be clear, I'm not saying I'll necessarily support it in the outer 2 years, but so that they can get the Palmerston North City Council stamp on their letterhead when they go out to other grant funders to bring in millions of dollars of external funding into an organisation and into a facility that our community would use. But more than that, because a number of community groups already utilise PMBH's facilities, I mean, I can only count, it would take me 10 hands to count the number of events I get invited to each year that are held at the Spears Centre. A list has come through, you know, PMBH's facilities support Manawatu Highland Dance, Performing Arts, Manawatu Symphonia, the Manawatu Concert Band, NZSS Chamber Music. But more than that, multiple other schools utilise those facilities as a regional hub, with Mana Tamariki, Cornerstone Christian School, Acouchery School, Opiki School, Linton Army Camp School and Queen Elizabeth College. I take a slightly different view to Councillor Ballin in that I would much prefer, in principle, that we support other organisations to own and operate facilities where they then take on the operating costs, the maintenance costs and the administration of those facilities, because I believe in the long term we get a much better result in terms of cost saving for our community. If this recommendation said 150 grand, no, I wouldn't support it. But I said to the Mayor the other day, look, if we got a few of our reductions across the line, then I'd be open to it. And although we haven't got anywhere near as many as I would like, we have got around $1.5 million across the line so far. So I am open for the reason that I would rather external organisations own and operated facilities, reducing our long-term costs to support 33,500 this year.
All right, just very quickly, just if anybody's been on a board of trustees, will understand how education funding works. I mean, there's a couple of comments about they're well resourced. They utilise their community to mobilise, but there are lots of smaller schools that are way better resourced. It's just the way funding works in our community. But you probably need to have been on a board of trustees to understand that. Around the licence councillor, I just can't understand how, if we can't collaborate, how are we ever going, as a city, going to be able to get any facilities? I look at what we've done with softball, what we've done with football, what we've done with hockey, and other indoor sports. I just don't know how we could get there by ourselves if we didn't collaborate. So the name of the game actually is collaboration, and I think there is a licence for that. I'll ask you to vote, please. And that's failed. For lack of majority, 7 votes all. All right. We move through to the next one, which is that the council create a new operating program to provide civic support for Massey's Botanical Gardens project of $50,000 in 25-26 year, and refer the same amount to the 26-27 year and the 27-28 annual budget process. Again, councillors, same sort of... I'll need a seconder for this. Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Colleagues, we heard the submission and the presentation, and then the submission from the Massey Foundation. Massey's going through a huge change at the moment, and this is a project which, again, I think is 13 million. Like the previous one and the one to come, they probably affect about a third, maybe a little bit more of our community, with their various own organisations, with staff, with students, with players, and this is in that space as well. This has the support of Rangitane. This is a staged botanical garden project. I was fortunate enough to see the McHardy family who donated Bledisloe Park to the city, which starts this as part of this wider project. And they are the sort of, we're building on top of those endowments to the city, and the foundation is going to raise the $13 million to put into this wider project. I believe this is quite transformational for our part of that. It builds on the work that we've done at the Eels, Eel project there, and the bridge, and certainly linking the university and the associated science campuses into the wider town and gown aspect. I think the timing of this is really important, and I can't stress enough how important it is to be supporting our university at this time. So I am looking for your support. Again, this is small. I'll probably get told off in saying it's not small. It's significantly small in the bigger scheme of everything that's going on with their fundraising. Again, we've supported them in the past. 2 other projects, SRI, the Sport and Rugby Institute, would never have landed here if the city wasn't involved in that, and that was in some earlier days from me. But then in more recent times, the planning awards are another example, along with the refectory. And again, that's how you build trust in organisations, and I come back to the collaboration model. So looking for your support, please. Councillor Naylor.
150,000, definitely not small. So I won't be supporting this, similar to reasons to the last. Yes, it's 50,000 this year, and the other 250,000s are referred to those years, but based on experience, there is always the risk that by the time we get to next year or the following year, there may well be commitments made that we can't possibly pull out of, and there might even be a contract involved. So, no from me.
Councillor McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like I said earlier, I'm happy to support reductions everywhere I can, where it makes sense, to alleviate the burden on our ratepayers, that sort of things. But I think this has great benefits for our city, in my personal opinion. So I'll be actually voting in favour of this because I also see the cultural aspects, the benefits behind it as well. The social and economic benefits behind it as well. And also for our city, we're not a touristic city, but I think we can leverage on our strength as well, which is that we have a great walkway, one of the best in the country. And I think this will go also a long way in adding more meat to a lot of the outdoor facilities that we have around the city. So on that basis, I'll be voting in favour of this because of those social benefits, economic benefits, and also cultural benefits that have been taken into consideration from treaty partners. Thank you.
Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Colleagues, I voted against the hockey turf, which we just considered, but I'm rising to speak in support of this. And for me, the point of differentiation is that in this case, we have the opportunity for very broad community enjoyment of such a facility as would be developed through these botanical gardens, and could see a marked improvement in the passive recreational assets available to the entire community. And so that's why I'm thinking this is well worth supporting. Heara Katahi comes to mind, a project that has paid off in spades, where the community has greatly enjoyed that. Came at quite a dear cost indeed. This is rather less, and I would put it to you that for $1.50 per ratepayer, pretty good value.
Councillor Wood.
Just for the sake of synergy, I thought I'd say as a recently former student of Massey, I had to consider whether or not being a student there was a reason to support this or not. But no, look, it is interesting, the switch that's happened with some of us who supported the turf and not supporting this. I take somewhat the opposite view to Councillor Barrett, in that a sports facility, which a well-known, well-trusted partner who offers it to other organisations to use, I think there's good value in that. A walkway to the river for Massey students to use, I do not see as much value. And I said to the Mayor, if we'd got enough reductions across the line, maybe I'd be open to adding this back in. But really, I mean, when we question them about it, one day it's 12 million and they're asking for $1 million. The next day it's 3 million and they're asking for 100,000 or 300,000. Or I just don't have faith that this is going to be a good investment for our city, nor do I see the greater community value for our city in doing this. So I'm not open to supporting 50,000 in this space as a result of not having been able to get enough other reductions across the line to change my comfort level. So I hope we won't support this.
Well, colleagues, I'll take you back to 1926. The then Mayor, no, I'm really serious here, you've got a very strategic choice to make. Do you want Massey to be at Albany, or do you want Massey to be here? 1926, sorry, I've got the microphone. 1926, the then Mayor, Frederick Nathan, fought hard, convinced his council to lobby the government, buy a farm and get Massey here. Yes, Councillor Barrett's talked about other projects. The bridge project is a total success. Well over 1 million people a year have been using that crossing. So a lot of people do use pathways, Councillor Wood. Yeah. So just be careful, councillors. This is a very, very timely conversation, and I believe we absolutely need to support the university in more ways than one. This is a small project which they've asked money for. Yes, some of the figures have changed. We're setting what we're giving them, and I do hope you can support that. It is very, very timely. Please make the right decision and support, again, a trusted partner for nearly 100 years. Please make the right decision or vote. And that is passed, 8 votes for and 7 against. All right. I'll put you out of your misery. This is the final one from me. And I'll need a seconder for this, please. Thank you, Councillor McLeod. Okay, colleagues. Again, just coming back to the notion that the last three organisations have significant influence and communities of interest within our wider city. The Manawatu Rugby Union has over 5,000 players. It's a relatively small organisation, even though it has a great reach. In terms of where it sits, it's one of the foundation members of the New Zealand Rugby Union, one of 8, including the big metros, but they do struggle. But they are quite a significant champion for us as a city and a region. And their community game actually has gone very well, and their women's side of the game has gone incredibly well. So we supply a number of black ferns to the New Zealand team, and the Turbos are well known as well. This year their top team is in the top National League, and they'll be fighting to keep in there. Their community game is where they do need the most help. We have supported them in the past, and we support a number of other sports, including softball, cricket, basketball, and rugby are in that same league. A number of other different cities, in fact, just about every city in New Zealand supports their union or their teams in some support in some way, and it's significantly more than what I'm putting up. I realise that the money is an issue, but also their survival is an issue as well. And again, like my previous pleas to you, if we dismiss everything, will they be there in the future? I don't know. So I think this is something where we need to get around people that are doing really good work in our community, and they do, and I ask you for a level of support. We have supported them to this level before. Councillor McLeod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm very happy and pleased to support and second the recommendation before us. I think I also see great value in this from a community well-being perspective. For anyone that's been to a cycling game, would see lots of family members coming on a Saturday, Friday, or Sunday afternoon to watch games and that sort of thing, and adds a bit of vibrancy as well. Those games that come into our city adds a bit of vibrancy to our city. And also from a community development perspective as well. And if we look at it from community well-being perspective as well, the social cohesion that it brings along to the games as well, the economic benefits that supports the games that support local businesses that actually contribute to the organization of these games as well. It's quite valuable to the city. So very pleased to support this. I know it's 25k per annum for the next 2 years. $50,000, I think that's quite minimal for the work that they do for us, especially also around promoting the city's logo and promoting the city as a whole. The same goes to, let's say, the Jets basketball team. Yes, this is semi-professional, but I think it still brings benefits, great benefits to the city. On that basis, I'm happy to support this.
Councillor Ballin.
Thank you. Well, to my mind, we have events funds existing, and we have sponsorship funds existing, and we have community funds, and we have policy targets for the arena revenue, which we don't meet. And so this proposal asks us to essentially waive our venue fees so that rugby can host 5 provincial games, and to make exceptions for one code, which we would not make at a community level, which we aren't making for other codes. If we've got the policies and we've got the existing funds, I don't support creating new line items when people get into a tough spot, because all the codes are in tough spots. Doesn't make sense to me. I won't support. Thanks.
Councillor Finlay.
Just a clarification, please. Could you tell me what the money is going to be used for?
Their submission was around community rugby. I don't quite know where the former speaker was coming from.
It won't be used as wages or salaries?
I don't believe it is.
Thank you.
Councillor Naylor.
I agree with the previous speaker. Creating more and more line items is not a sustainable way to run a city, and we've already got, you know, sponsorship for the Jets, sponsorship for the Central District Hinds, other items in the budget that we couldn't actually change because they're under contract with those organisations. So we do have other funds in our organisations, such as sponsorship opportunities for council with economic benefits, 67,000. You know, if this is really important enough, I think we need to look at what our existing funding mechanisms are rather than adding a new one on. So I will not be supporting this.
Councillor Dennison.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. While I'm fully supportive of sport, I do find this a little bit of a struggle to support. I'll take the point around these outer years. I think they're still left to the annual budget processes of those years. So what we're talking about is the 25,000 in my view. But even then, we're going against a deficit budget year on year. In this last financial year, it was in the hundreds of thousands. I've just looked up how much the New Zealand Rugby Union is funding Manawatu Rugby Union, and for this 25 financial year, there'll be a further reduction of 233. It was confirmed by the CE here at the table that they are a semi-professional with their men and women's team. And why it's tied into community rugby is a merge of the whole operation. And so I really do are challenged to be funding in this direction to just offset deficit budgets. And so there's more of an issue here than just trying to help to support them to get on the field this year. As far as other codes, this is one code that did come a couple of years ago for a multi-year request, and we were quite clear. We gave them, I think it was 50,000 as a one-off, and we said, please go back out and find some other sponsorships. And to come back again and ask for large recurring approaches, I think gives risk to other codes to come here equally with a precedent. There are other codes that are struggling to find funding, and where our capacity building would be, in my comfort level, is to be providing the funding through our regional sports trust, Sport Manawatu, and let them have more of an overview and give the resource, rather than having the approach come to us directly, because I fear, like we've done with the Jets, I see that as being a different structure to kind of support in the next stage, but we've also already had the local basketball association come here saying how pleading poverty and wanting, you know, funds to support. Rugby's next. Who else is coming up behind them? And so that's my risk. I find it a struggle to support this here right now. Sorry, Mr Mayor.
Okay, a couple of comments. Funding arena, I'm not sure where that came from. Deficit budgets, yes, they had run a deficit budget. They're not looking for money to plug a deficit budget. They're looking for money for the future. They were very, very clear about the support of the women's game and community rugby and the risks they run if they cannot survive. And, you know, Councillor Dennison, as a national sporting office member, I thought you would understand this, especially, and not to pitch sports against sports, but this is exactly like the Jets do. Do you want them to survive? So look, I can sense the room, but I'm just saying to you, good way to get to Heartland Rugby. So please support them. They carry a very proud brand, like Councillor Mickelard said. They do promote the city incredibly well on the national and sometimes international stage. They do us proud, and we're taking quite a different stance to what our other city partners are doing. They're actually getting around and collaborating with their sporting codes, their successful sporting codes. I would hate to think we're going the opposite direction. We actually funded them 25,000 the previous time. So please ask you to look at this openly and support one of our champion organisations. We will vote. That is passed, 10 votes for and 5 against. Okay, we come now to this. This has been just dropped in here. It was, and we apologise from the officers on the officers' behalf. This is around the Gateway car park at the new Manawatu Tararua Highway, Tio Turanga, and it's around an operating budget to just around the management, ongoing management. And referring to the 2027 long-term plan as well. I'm happy to move that. There is a little bit of work to go into the background on this with our partners, i.e. Other district councils, and what that will look like going into the future. This is quite significant, and I think it will be the gateway, the entranceway into Te Apiti. This is going to be our mountain, our natural sort of tourism spot as well, and the opportunities and the legacy that the road will leave us are going to be quite immense. So I do think we should do this, support this. I've been working hard with my colleagues around whether this comes into the regional council eventually or it comes into some other entity that perhaps looks after the old road or what. We just don't know yet. But it's a small cost to pay just to keep the new Gateway car park maintained. Councillor Johnson.
It's just a question. Is this operating costs for a year for maintenance, or what is it exactly?
I'll get one of the officers to speak to that.
Kathy Deaver-Todd, Manager, Parks and Reserves. This is for things like emptying rubbish bins, opening and closing the gates, and maintaining the general state of the car park. This does not include any renewals, so this is just the costs of making that car park available for the community to use.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I can have a short comment if you like. Well, since my microphone's on. I mean, I'm going to support this because I think it's, you know, we haven't had to pay for the reconstruction of the car park, but it's now coming back to us. It's in our territory, and you know, someone has to maintain it, and probably it falls to us. So I think it's sensible to put it in. Thank you.
Councillor Barn.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I only knew what that was from the words on the screen, and even that makes enough sense to me. Te Awa Turanga is going to be an incredible gift to our community once we finally get it over the line. I think those of us who've driven it recently can see that it's actually going to be an attractor by itself for the many recreational facilities that sit alongside the road corridor, the walking, cycling, general active recreation that will happen in that space. And then there's the opportunities of Te Apiti itself. So let's start well. Let's get the car park open and keep it open for a year while we figure out what's going to happen with Te Apiti and what other partners can come in to help us deliver a really great product off the back of that transport investment.
All right, no further commentary. I think we'll just vote. That has passed 13 votes for and 2 against. Okay. All right, 2A or 2B. Or not to be? All right, that is the question. Okay, so we've got here, there's two options here, colleagues, around, and this comes on Featherston Street, the gift that keeps giving, that council create a new operating program of 90,000 for investigation of bus and vehicle pickups and drop-offs, road zone, and other options in the large green spaced road reserve on Featherston Street opposite the Boys High, and we direct the CE to report back on findings, investigations and potential options to inform future annual budgets, or B, that the council does not proceed further with any investigation, etc., etc. I'm happy to move to A, and I'll look for a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Wood. Colleagues, the school has come to us and voiced their concerns around especially bus drop-offs and pickups and the congested nature of that whole area and North Street as well. This has a direct alleviation for them in the spares centre, which they now cannot utilise during school hours for fear of accidents. So they do need somewhere to drop people off, and they just don't have that capability at the moment. This will go some way to figuring out, this was what the space was meant to do. This green space, if you go back to the Racewood L days of here, that's what that road reserve was positioned for, a drop-off space. So it's a little bit of back to the future, and I don't know what it's going to cost, and we don't know what the options are, so we've got to let the staff have a look at that. So again, looking for your support in improving what we've got there. No other speakers? We will vote, please. It has passed 11 votes for and 3 against. All right. Sorry, folks, we're just getting our ducks in a line here. So 1B is around council instructing the chief, this is a catch-all for our operating programs. So that council instruct the chief executive to prepare a draft annual budget for 2025-26 for consideration and adoption by the council at its meeting of 4th of June 25, and that it incorporates the following: B, operating programs including carry forwards relating to program 1520, digital transformation, and program 2346, or nationwide system replacement or new systems initiatives as outlined in annual budget 2025-26 schedule of proposed operating programs attachment 4, with the amendments as agreed above, and any related resolutions from item 7, that's around the community housing partnership, which we're yet to, and that does have a very small budget line on it. So I'm happy to move that. Can I have a seconder, please, on this? Thank you, Councillor Micklard. Again, as I said, it's a catch-all. It includes everything above and the yet to be decided community housing partnership. No other speakers? We'll vote, please. That is passed 13 votes for and 2 against. We're going to have a break. So back in the chamber at 3:30, thanks. Kia ora everyone, welcome back. We're now into the second half of our meeting. One will hope this half will go a little bit quicker. Before we go there though, and this is around capital new programs and additional recommendations we've got, I just want to ask Scott especially, where are we sitting in terms of rates, please?
Cool. Afternoon all. First time I've had to speak this afternoon, which is great. Now making the assumption that the digital transformation carry forward and the professional services resolutions are meaning one and the same thing, and not quite knowing where the remainder of that professional services reduction is coming from, we are currently sitting at 7%.
Okay, thank you. Everyone clear on that? Great. All right. We'll move into capital new. And this is R. We're getting through that. We're going to have to recycle the alphabet soon. And this is around reducing council's planned capital spend on vehicles and plant by 677,000 by A, reducing program 99 new vehicles by 157,000, was 322,000 and changing that to 161,000. B, deferring program 2449 fleet upgrade to alternative fuel of 357 to 2026-27 annual budget, and C, deferring program E 1875 upgrade to electric vehicles 163,000 to the 26-27 annual budget. Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Naylor. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've done this before 2 years ago as councillors in the annual budget then, and the argument remains reasonably consistent that is it the right thing to do, or is it tone deaf to be purchasing a whole host of new vehicles when our community have made it very clear they can't afford the rates rise? $150,000 spend on new vehicles is simply not necessary at this time. As for upgrading to electric and alternative, it's nice to do, but not critical, and could be deferred for a year and have this debate as a part of the prioritisation process then. So I hope you can support this as a reasonably sensible way that we can make some reduction to support our community.
Councillor Johnson.
Just a couple of quick questions, if I may. The first one is, we've got this list of capital new, I think mostly deferrals from elected members, but we've also got the table from officers. Is there any overlap there, or are they two completely separate lists? I haven't really had time to establish.
I'll just ask officers, can they answer that? I'll go to the CE first and then he can go from there.
Yes, Chair, Mr. Mayor. So the list that we produced, I think it came out before we had seen the list of recommendations. Yeah. So if there is a crossover, it'll be purely coincidence.
Okay, thank you. And then my next question is, could we just have an officer comment on the impact of this before we make a decision? Thank you.
I'll go to the CFO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just looking at so in terms of this, the upgrade to alternative fuel vehicles, there was an intention to upgrade two of our resource recovery fleet to some alternative fuel. So that just would mean that when we're renewing those trucks, they would be internal combustion engines if that budget's not available. The upgrade to electric to an electric fleet program, the intention behind that one is more so around having the infrastructure required to enable charging of an electrified fleet. You have to have the infrastructure in place before you can have a full rollout. And the third one, which is I think the new vehicles, that is at the moment we've been using that for things like VMS boards, the orange digital boards you see around when there's road closures and what have you. As an example, we've been purchasing a few of those instead of hiring them. When we've purchased those, they've had a payback period of about 14 months compared to hiring. So So that budget just allows us to look at those opportunities.
So, if I understand correctly, the vehicle upgrades will still take place, but instead of them being upgraded to electric vehicles, they'll be internal combustion engine.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Barrett.
Thanks. Questions as well. I guess I'm trying to understand how this relates to the item that's coming, I think, to strategy and finance around shared fleet options in the near future.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So yes, doing some work on that paper in recent times. The council still needs to determine whether what way forward it would like to go. That paper will explore what the costs to council are of a shared fleet option versus in-house or self-sourcing of those vehicles. So that is intended to come back to you imminently.
Thanks. And that would relate to Program 99 or 1875 or both?
That's probably, well, that would be more reflective of the renewal program and how many vehicles that in our pool fleet that we would end up renewing over time.
Thank you. Can I just inquire around Program 1875, what information we have around whole of life costs of those vehicles in terms of differences in maintenance costs, differences in operating costs once the capital's been invested?
Yeah, so through Mr Mayor, the operating costs of an electric vehicle is cheaper for the council in terms of energy costs is lower than fuel. But to proceed with that for some of our other sites, particularly the likes of Depot or some of the sites where we do have plant and equipment such as mowers and that sort of stuff, we need the ability to be able to charge them if we're to move to an electric vehicle fleet. So that kind of covers more than just passenger vehicles. That might cover, that might also extend into things like mowers and tractors and so forth.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Spellin.
Thank you. I also just had a question about, in particular, the mobile library bus and whether, I know that's due for replacement soonish, and whether that counts as a capital new or renewal, and whether that, which of these budgets would that fit into when it comes to it?
My understanding is that's in the renewal budget for not this budget round, but for the next one.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's another question, I'm afraid, but this maybe helps me with all the rest of these that are coming as well. So if the elected member recommendations aren't on the officer list, does that mean, can I assume, that those budgets that elected members have pulled out have been considered by officers and not brought forward for reduction or deferral?
Through the Mayor, yes.
Thank you, that is very helpful. Nothing further to add.
Councillor Naylor.
Thank you. Just want to make a quick comment about this area. Everything in Capital New is an increased level of service. So in going through the items, there is already a significant investment in the renewal space for many of these programs. So the feedback has been, you know, hold off unnecessary spend. If there's things that can wait a year, then I think it's sensible for us to consider that. So this is why I would be happy to support this. My overall view of in the capital space is that it is far too big, that it is unrealistic in terms of deliverability as well as affordability. Whilst it can sometimes be viewed that the impact on the rates in the current year is not huge, the following year the impact on rates is 3 times what it is in the current year. So for every % that we put up because of Capital New this year, that's 3% that we've got to put the rates up next year to cover the ongoing debt reduction and the additional interest costs for that. So for that reason, I think that it is worthwhile us trying to reduce the capital program to something more realistic. The customer services manager's suggestion earlier, whilst I acknowledge that's really good to be thinking outside of the box, I don't necessarily see that as a favourable option at this stage, because I think we need to be really clear with our community what we are saying that we will deliver and then try and deliver that, rather than say to our community we're going to deliver this but then only deliver this. So it kind of offers us a way of having our cake and eating it too, but I do think it comes with some risks, and my preference would be for us to actually land on what's a more reasonable capital program, and certainly around that 100 million mark I think is more reasonable than 115.
Councillor Johnson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm open to reducing the capital programme. That's the first thing to say. But I have a preference for reducing it in a way that corresponds with what officers think would be sensible, rather than what elected members have picked out. And so I will be inclined to support the majority of the proposed capital reduction in the table document, proposed capital reduction updates. I'm nervous about supporting many of these recommendations from, I think, mostly Councillors Naylor and Wood, without having a lot of information on them, and particularly since we have got an alternative list that would achieve significant reduction in the capital programme that staff have worked on and are comfortable with. So my view is going to be, look, I'll support the majority of the table document. I'm probably not going to support many of these elected member proposals without a good deal of extra information, and particularly since staff have given it some thought and come up with an additional list for us. So I don't know whether it's worth, to speed us on, whether we consider them all together or not. I'll leave that to you, Mr Chair, but just indicating where I'm sitting at the moment.
All right, thank you. Look, I'll just make a quick comment. I'm a little bit the same with some of these, but they are all spread out all over the place. These don't appear on this one, these particular ones here. This is around vehicles and plant. I am going to support it, but just signalling that not necessarily on all the others, because they are all quite different and they do appear in some of these as well. So for the purpose of this particular one, Councillor Wood and Councillor Naylor are right. This is extra. And look, I think there isn't a harm in deferring a couple of these things as well. And it is around the $700,000 mark. So I think it is relatively significant. So I'm happy to support it. Back to you, Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's an interesting point Councillor Johnson makes, in that some councillors may feel more comfortable supporting the officers list. What I would suggest to councillors is, when Councillor Naylor and I have tried in the past to say, the Chief Executive go back and determine what $1 million of rates reduction would look like, or what this amount of capital reduction would look like, elected members around this table say that is shirking our responsibility. It needs to be our decision as to what prioritisation we take. And so I find it a bit hard to hear the argument that when elected members have gone through the budgets, put up suggestions for prioritisation, we would rather not look at that and just do what the officers have suggested. I'm in full support of everything the officers have done, but that only takes us to, by my calculation, around $104 million of the capital program. We've only delivered $44 million to date this year of the last year, councillors, and I don't think we're going to deliver another $30 million in the next 3 months heading into winter. So I just don't, yes, 104 or 100 or whatever it happens to be with the officer recommendations is good, but I don't think that should preclude us from looking at other areas of prioritisation. And what I would say to you is twofold. One, it is easy for us to look at the capital program and go, it has a small impact on rates in this year, therefore it doesn't matter. At the 4.4% interest rate assumption that we have in our annual budget, over a 30-year period, every $1 million you borrow, you will pay back $1.8 million from the community's pocket. So it does cost us in the long run, and part of the rate increase that we felt last year was driven by the capital value decisions that we had made in previous years. If you want to be the face of council driving around in brand new electric vehicles, please be my guest, but I do not want to be, and I hope you'll support me in voting for this.
Okay, councillors, we will vote on the capital new reduction that's on the screen. R, please. And that is passed, 11 votes for and 5 against. All right. We now move forward to S, and this is around deferring 366,000 of councils. Okay. We're driving, we're safe, okay. This is S, deferring 366,000 of council's planned capital new spend on reserves by, we've got rid of A, and we're going to B, which is deferring program 1853, development of existing reserves of 85,000 to 26-27 annual budget. C, deferring program 1846, walkway extensions of 189 to 2026-27 annual budget, deferring program 1847, Esplanade New, 61 to the 26-27 annual budget, and E, deferring program 1848, Linklater Reserve, 31,000 to the 26-27 annual budget. Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Johnson. Councillor Wood.
It's not seconded by Councillor Johnson.
Councillor Naylor, my apologies.
Although she'd be welcome to. The reason for the removal of A, councillor, is in answer to questions officers identified. This was the only one of these 5 proposals that was in the critical category rather than the strategic, and the answer was it was about accessibility to our reserves. I will note there is a $50,000 recommended deferral that officers have put in their sheet, and I'm happy to look at that as we get to theirs. But the rest of these programs, there is some duplication between the officer's sheet and this one. I don't think that causes us any trouble. If we approve this today, well then when we get to the officer's one, that's already been approved, so there's no issue. In terms of the argument for deferring these by 1 year, is that this is all capital new strategic, increasing the level of service we offer in our parks and reserves. We already offer a fantastic offering to our community from our parks and reserves, and I think this is an area where we could hold off for a year, so I hope you support it.
Councillor Johnson.
Just a comment from officers about the impact of these, please.
Kathy Dever-Todd, Manager Parks and Reserves. The first one, 1853, we do have some ongoing commitments to developers where we have reserve land that we've owned for a while but hasn't developed. An example of that would be Missoula Reserve. We had planned in this year coming up to make the connection between the Whakaronga Lagoon area and Missoula Reserve now that adjacent land has been done, so that would be the implication there. Walkway extensions, part of that is the acquisition of land, and under the district plan, if a subdivision occurs alongside a river, then we take an Esplanade Reserve. We're currently in the process of working through one of those and had intended to use the money for funding, part of that money for funding that next year. Esplanade New, that money was aside for some improvements to the playground that were identified during the master plan development. There was probably no direct implications of deferring that. And the final one, the Linklater Reserve, council is giving consideration to animal control in that area at the moment. This money had been targeted for some improvements to prevent dogs going into the stormwater and ponding area. There may be some other things that come through, and this money would be directed towards that animal control.
Thank you. So could we take them separately? Thanks.
I'm looking at the mover and seconder. Do you want to, do them separately, or do you want to withdraw any? Okay, all right, we'll do them separately. Right, we'll keep moving. Sorry, Councillor Bowen.
Thank you. I was just doing the comparison between the documents. So my read of it is that D in yours is the same as D in that, which I'm absolutely fine with and will support, but the rest I won't support, noting that C also turns up in the officers' recommendations with a proposed reduction, which I'm happy to support when we go to the officers' table.
Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My thinking is, yeah, I'm happy probably to support D, but I guess the answers that we've got from officers for B, C and E suggest that, again, we lack context and understanding of what some of these prunings might in fact actually entail for our community. So perhaps to the mover and the seconder, for others perhaps we need to do a little bit more thinking about what it is we're actually putting up. Thank you.
Councillor Naylor.
Yeah, we appreciate the comments. Just one thing to add to that is that there is a lot of investment in the renewal space for all of this in these areas for the reserves that we already have. But to note, we need to remember that any capital new is an increase in level of service. So we totally have choice about whether we want to increase the level of service in this area. And we need to be aware that every time we increase the level of service, that we get more ongoing renewals as a result of that as well. So I'm happy to support all of these on that basis.
Councillor Wood, right reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just withdraw E in light of the officer's comments around Linklater Reserve, but carry on with B, C and D. I'd just say a few things. Yes, firstly, on the same line as Councillor Naylor, this is increase in level of service, so it is a shame if we've been working something out at the other side of the Esplanade that we might not be able to do it this year, and I'm sorry to our officers for that, but I think at the end of the day we've been asked to look at areas of non-essential spending, and this could wait. The other thing I would say is I find it, I wouldn't say insulting, but reasonably condescending to suggest that not enough work's been put into these proposals. There's 4 tranches of questions here. Our officers have put in hundreds of hours. I myself have put in, whether you like these recommendations or not, probably 20, 30, 40 hours trying to get these to you here today. So I am doing my level best to give our community some choice, whether you agree or not. Yes, we don't have answers to officers in detail of every single program in our budget, and I would love if at the next annual budget that we get better information so that we don't have to ask 100 questions to understand what our budgets do. That would be lovely, but we are working the best we can with the information we've got, and I think these are sensible ways that we can not make a significant impact on the community but save some additional capital spend. So I hope you can support them.
Okay, we'll move to B. We're going to vote on B only, please. That has passed 9 votes for and 7 against. Okay. We're going to vote on C. And that's passed 10 votes for and 5 against. Who didn't vote? How are you voting? Against. 10 votes for, 6 against. Okay, and then finally we'll go to the last one, please, and that's D. This is D. And that has passed 13 votes for and 3 against. Okay. Right, we're now going to T. No, yes, T, which is around deferring program 902, seismic strength of council buildings of 2,042,000, deferring that to the 26-27 annual budget. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Half of this is already proposed by the officers, which is doing some of the design work for Te Manawa and the Globe seismic strengthening. My understanding is the other remaining million of this is to start the seismic strengthening work at the Regent. Just to be really clear on this one, it's not that I'm opposed to doing seismic strengthening work at the Regent, but I was at a conference over the weekend where Minister Bishop spoke and he said we are going through a major overhaul, as we already know, of the seismic strengthening legislation in this country. And so I would hate for us to cause all of that disruption to the Regent to find out in 12 months' time that perhaps it wasn't necessary. So I would just rather we wait, hold off a year, and then when we've got information on what the legislation looks like, it's not like it has to be done this year anyway. We've got a timeline, we've got available space, and under the current legislation it was just extended by 4 years. So I think of all the things, if we go through and start this work and then find it doesn't need to carry on or any manner of other things, particularly with the Te Manawa and Globe design, is if we spend all the work designing it and then the legislation changes, we don't have to do it, well, we'll have to operationalise that program that's been done in capital, so at more cost to the ratepayer. So I would just rather we held off on this for a year. It's not a significant change, and I hope you can support it.
Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is just a question, if I could. I did ask some questions about the officers' programme, which kept the Regent in, but now the Regent is proposed to be out. I wonder if the officers could comment on whether that programme is simply to do seismic strengthening, or also is the other internal work from the flood and things like that I thought were included in this programme.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Glenn Bunny, Manager Property. The 1 million component of that amount is intended for seismic strengthening only for the Regent. The other 1,500,000 and 500 were for Te Manawa and the Globe.
Yes, but is that million only for the seismic work, or were the Regent and Council taking the opportunity to do the other work that's required following the roof failure and things like that?
My understanding is that million is only for seismic in that budget item.
Helpful.
Through the Chair, just there is another budget. There's already work happening on the Regent roof and that as well under other budgets.
Okay, Councillor McLeod.
Oh, thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, just to add my voice to the debate, I said earlier, I'll support reductions where it makes sense. And I think this is an area where it actually makes sense, given that, the Minister a few months ago outlined that there will be 4 years extension to notice expiry for any building prone, any of the earthquake prone buildings around the country. And that actually, and that there's also another option that the government is considering extending to a further 2 years after that. So it's not, I know that a lot of work has to be done around some of our buildings that we have around Palmerston North, but it's not one that's, particularly pressing, and that can be deferred for another year. And I don't see any problem around us, given that we've got that extension, 4-year extension. Gives us enough room as well to actually work, put more work of feasibility studies around this, or I don't know, and also just waiting on central government to come up with all the requirements that they have actually in the pipelines to better absorb the shock that comes with all these reforms that are currently happening around this space. So on that basis, I'll be voting in favour of this. Thank you.
Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the question that's actually before us is, when we look in this community, when we look at our property portfolio as a council, what level of resilience do we want to build into that and when? And I'm increasingly tired of hearing, with all due respect, from folks that have been to conferences, had chats to ministers, and by the way, I think I can now delay this because, well, honestly, it's not the minister's choice. It's our choice about whether or not we want to have resilient, well-built properties and facilities that we invite our community into. And I can say to councillors that think a year may or may not matter, well, it depends what happens in that year, doesn't it? Because if, hopefully not, but if there were a seismic event that we had decided we'd just kind of kick the can down the road, like this is a chance for us to get in front of stuff. It's work that needs doing if we actually want our facilities to be fit for purpose. And I'm tired of the kicking the can down the road mentality around this. I'm tired of looking to current government direction for excuses not to invest. Please, colleagues, vote this down so that we can continue to work to ensure that when we have the opportunity to invite members of our community and our facilities, we know that we're inviting them into safe, resilient spaces. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question, because that was quite animated, and I realise it was a theatre that we're talking about. What is the? I didn't realise the Regent was as bad as it was being made out to be. What is the rating of the Regent? Can anybody tell me?
Through Mr. Mayor, I don't have the exact MBS rating at the moment in terms of a percentage score.
Okay, all right. It doesn't really help me anymore, but anyway, it's fine. Okay, Councillor Harper.
Thank you. I won't be supporting this recommendation. I'm agreeing with Councillor Barrett, which is quite surprised to see. I actually think that we should be getting on and doing this work. If we've got the money in the budget, we should get on and do it. We should be looking after our community and get on and do the work if the money's in the budget. Not putting it off. I don't think we should be deferring it. I think we should get on and do it. Thank you.
Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to say that I also won't support this. We've got a significant compression risk around our earthquake seismic strength buildings that we need to actually work on. So the more we kick this down the road and don't give it the due attention that it needs, the greater compression further down the track, and we will be caught in no man's land. So please vote this down. Thank you.
Okay, back to you, Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to our officers for clarifying, because it was a valuable question from Councillor Bowen as to whether or not this would impact other work going on at the Regent. It's a peculiar argument that Councillor Barrett puts. Why are we doing this in the first place? Is it out of some assessment we did 20 years ago that we decided all of our buildings needed to be strengthened? No, it's as a result of the legislation which required us to assess our building and then act on it within a certain time frame. That time frame has been extended by 4 years, so that means that our whole program can push out 4 years. To Councillor Hancock's point on a compression risk, I don't see there being one. If we compress this 5 years out and only had a 4-year extension, yes, you shorten the time frame you're able to do it in. If you push it 1 year out, you've still got 3 additional years in terms of actually spreading out that load of work of the 25 buildings that we have to be seismically strengthened. But to be really clear on why we're doing this, if the legislation comes through that we don't have to strengthen all 25 of those buildings at a cost of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to our community, it's 150 million just to do the library in Te Manawa alone, let alone all of the other buildings we have to do. If the legislation comes through that we don't have to do that, I think it would be bizarre to then push forward with a schedule of works based on old legislation. So, no, I don't think we're letting the minister decide. It's letting the minister decide that we had to do it in the first place with the legislation. So we're just responding to what the government's telling us we are and aren't required to do. So, no, I think this is our choice in our community. It's not an excuse not to invest, and we're not saying get rid of the program. We're just saying wait a year and see what the information is so that we can make a good decision. And isn't that what we're all about here, making good decisions?
Councillor Barrett.
Point of order, what's actually driving the program is engineering assessments. Thank you.
Okay, it's getting long in the day, so I can sense people's frustration. So we've got deferring the program around seismic strengthening. Please vote. moved by Councillor Naylor, seconded by Councillor Wood. Councillor Naylor.
Thank you. Just keeping it really brief. Roading is an area that we've stepped up our investment into really significantly. This program, I'm just suggesting we wait a year. It's one that can wait a year.
Can I just ask a question of officers, probably for you, Glenn, come down. Is there any, I think there was a few questions asked about the nature of this versus Kelvin Grove Road. If this got deferred a year, is there any sort of issues around our other work?
Yes, Mr Mayor, these jobs are both linked. There'll be quite a bit of transport of aggregates material along Stony Creek, Kelvin Grove, so there's sequencing. Also, the sort of cut to fill burrows, there's some links between the two jobs. At the very least, officers would encourage some money to be retained in this program so that we could do the enabling works in the land.
Okay, yep, this sounds very much like W. Okay, so look, I'm not going to support this, colleagues, because of the very nature of the linkages, and also the community has been here for a long, long time asking for some work in this space. It's also quite a dangerous road and well travelled, and with the other work that's been going on with Kelvin Grove Road, I think there probably is some scale there to do them both at once. I appreciate what colleagues are trying to do, but I do think this will actually cost us more in the long run by trying to separate them all out. So I won't be supporting it. Councillor Sabellin.
We'll amend it.
Oh, okay.
Just a partial path.
Just based on the officer's comment, the seconder is supportive of us reducing that to 1 million to a portion.
All right. Okay, I'll go back to you, Councillor Isabel.
Thank you. Notwithstanding that amendment, I will still be strongly opposed to this one because Stony Creek Road safety improvements, this is listed as a key commuter route for Whakarongo, and it contains a school drop-off zone that's in a really high-speed area with narrow, very poorly maintained roads for a long time and with really poor shoulder provision. So it is dangerous, and I hear so much feedback from the residents of that area that this is overdue and desperately needed for safety, and they've just lost faith that we'll ever get round to prioritising it. Despite this being one of our fastest growing suburbs, we're actually getting started with the 5 dips and the works in that area, and it feels like this would be backpedalling. I did also note that Program 1004, which is the program to install a water main at the same time that this work is done, would also be impacted if we reduced or deferred this. And with attachment 8 coming up with the sort of proposal to abandon doing the Kelvin Grove and Stony Creek Road intersection in favour of other intersections, I would argue that that's not a step up. This isn't a step up, this is a step back on overdue work that we were just getting started on. So I would, even though it's amended, I would still oppose this. The residents have been crying out for this, and it's a blacklisted area. We need to act on it and get moving.
Councillor Hancock.
A question for the mover, Mr Mayor. How did we determine the $1 million in terms of being the appropriate quantum?
That was just based on the officer's suggestion of having part of it there would be useful, and I would trust that officers, if that was problematic in any way in the way that they staged it, would come back to us with advice, as they normally do.
Well, we didn't receive any officer's advice in terms of what was the appropriate amount. They just said they could actually defer some of it. All I'm going to say is simply this, is that Councillor Isabellin has really articulated very well why this work actually needs to continue. So please, for those reasons, reject it. Thank you.
Are you speaking against? Yes. Okay, we've already got 3 against. Councillor Dennison, are you speaking for? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This splitting this program over the next 2 years and doing 1 million this year and $1 million the next, I think it does enable the work get established, and just do it at a slower timeline. And it's not giving any indication to the community, in my mind, that we're actually halting this at all. We're just being more prudent in the timeline that we're going to execute this project in. It's not unusual for projects this large anyway to go over more than the financial year, and I think we just allow for that. And $1 million, I think, a fair split, 50-50. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, back to you, Councillor Wood.
I'm not the mover, Mr. Mayor, I'm the seconder, but just very briefly, just to comment.
Sorry, no, we've already got 3.
We had 3, 4?
Oh, you are number 3, sorry.
Very quickly, just say this synergises well with what the officers have recommended with 159 Kelvin Grove safety improvements, that the revised program budget there is $1 million, delaying the substantive physical works and just doing the enabling work. So this lines up well with that and is, I think, a reasonable thing to do, particularly on Councillor Zabelin's point. If we spend $1 million starting it, it will then get finished the next year. So I don't think in any way this is telling our community it's not going to happen or that they have to wait longer.
Right, a reply? Okay, all right. So we've got, this is around the program, Stony Creek Road, of $1 million to the following year. That's you. Thank you. That has failed. 7 votes for and 9 against. All right, we're now going to V, which is around deferring program 1194 CET Arena Master Plan of 8.5 million and 28,000 to the 26-27 annual budget. Moved by Councillor Naylor, seconded by Councillor Zabelin. Councillor Naylor.
Thank you. We've got a number of quite large projects included in this budget, and this is one that has come up time and time again over the last year, and feedback the community has given me about an example of one of the programs that is simply not essential and does not need to be done at this time. Given the $17+ million investment in Arena not too long ago, I also concur with many of the comments. They've also come through thick and hard through a lot of the submissions where people have suggested lower rates increases, and they've used this as an example. And interestingly enough, in the multiple emails that I've received over the last few days, this has also been cited by many as something that could be deferred. I tend to agree with that, so I am proposing for this to be deferred for consideration next year.
Colleagues, no surprise, Councillor Naylor obviously speaks to a lot of different people that I do. A lot of people say this is one of the projects they really like about the city. It also secured us many events, and it's the reason we have really, really strong, active communities in our city. It's also been signalled by officers that they don't need all of, and I just wonder if the mover and the seconder wish to withdraw it, bearing in mind we've got, you don't? Okay. Okay, well, I'll go harder. Please do not vote for this. This is the whipping boy again, as X will be. It's just another continuation of, do I need to give people a GPS where Arena is? I mean, some of these comments are just unfounded, absolutely unfounded. This is a program that many submissions were, and if people thought it was up for the chopping block, they would have flooded you with thousands of submissions of support. So, read the room, don't vote for this. Councillor Harper.
I will not support this, and this is the one that I think that everybody said, do not chop. I mean, I think we've got to keep going. We've got a program of work for Arena, and we need to keep on going and get this program going. The officers have given us a suggestion to possibly reduce it by $3 million this next year and carry on with a revised budget of $5.5 million. We should listen to the officers. They're the ones that make sense to us. So I think that they've given us a suggestion. This is a revenue earner for us. It's the one that does make us money and brings money in for the city. So at the end of the day, this is the one we don't chop. This is the one we carry on going. So please, please don't do it.
Councillor Dennison.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Again, in the lines of your arguments and with Councillor Hapata, not going to support the full deferment. The officer's recommendation has a rephasing that accurately reflects the delivery timeline, which I think is smart. Let's not underestimate the strategic value of the arena. We talked about this as court space. We've done the needs assessment. We know that the current court space is needing more. This is for active recreation. This is for the indirect economic benefit to the city. If there's anything that creates economic benefit, it's the arena. We have the largest volleyball tournament in the country hosted here. The basketball national secondary schools hosted here. There is hundreds of people that come through here, stay for weeks at long, parents, coaches, teachers, schools, all advocating. That's just two of the events, let alone any teams, champs, stock cars, all the other likes. This is for the master plan's priority, which is new court space, and I'm not going to defer it completely out. I'm going to take the recommendations of the officers on this. Thanks.
Councillor Sabellin.
Thank you. My reasons for supporting this recommendation are a few. One is that it's not a safety concern. It's not a performance concern. The arena will continue to operate very well. No one will experience a reduced level of service. The arena will still have millions invested in it this year in needed renewals and upgrades, and I'm very supportive of looking after what we've got and keeping it in good condition. The arena does not make money. It is a 70% subsidy. Nothing will fall over if we delay this build. No one will be any worse off than they already are now. The arena will continue to be a well-used and well-loved offering, delivering strategic and economic outcomes for us as it currently does. Nothing will change.
Councillor Finlay.
I will not support this. Every year at budget time, the sacrificial lamb of the arena comes up, and let's slaughter it a bit more this year. No way. It is the gem in our crown. It brings more tourists or visitors into the city than anything else does by a country mile. Why on earth would we want to hold it back? Well, I suppose dumb people might. But for me, I think it's an opinion. I'm allowed an opinion.
Sorry, I missed what was said, but I'm glad I did. Please watch your language, Councillor.
I used the word dumb, so I didn't think it was a swear word, but obviously it is. Well, some people might think it's a good thing to hold back the arena this year and next year and the year after, but like Wellington used to do with their water. I think we as a city need to keep our arena where it is, right at the top. And every year we take a little bit back. We give other cities that advantage over us. I won't support holding back arena in any way because I believe it does more for our city and earns our city so much than anything else we have.
Yeah, yes, you're right, and it's my mistake. I apologise. There's two of us here and we both missed it. Is there anybody who wishes to speak against this? Because we've had, sorry, my apologies, we've had too many speak for it. Okay, no. Yeah, against this. Is there for it? Councillor Nally, you're obviously speaking for it.
Just a right of reply when everyone else is finished.
Right of reply, sorry.
Yep, thank you. Just wanted to address, I guess, what is, I believe, a mistaken comment suggesting that it's a revenue earner. It's simply not the case. We subsidise the arena $7 million a year. It costs $10 million and we get 2.6 revenue. Yes, of course, there is some economic benefit to to some of the community, but many of the ratepayers who are saying that they are struggling are not those who benefit from this type of economic benefit. So definitely, I agree with all the very good points that Councillor Zabellin made, and Definitely, this is something that can wait.
Okay, we're going to vote on V, deferring arena master plan. And that is lost. 3 votes for, 13 against. All right, W, which is linked to X as well, which is deferring program 2456 Cliff Road of $1,862,000 to the 26-27 annual budget. Councillor Naylor moved and seconded by Councillor Meehan.
Thank you. I want to start by saying I do want to acknowledge our partnership with Rangatane and want to acknowledge the importance of this project, that they've identified this as a priority to them. And for that reason, it's quite a difficult one to get up and talk about. And perhaps if the arena one had passed, I may well have withdrawn it. But the feedback that I've been consistently hearing is that we've got too many projects that cost the ratepayer too much, trying to do it all at once. In any healthy partnership, there needs to be honesty. And I think, based on the feedback I've heard from the community, and are included very much through many of these submissions, the feedback, I believe, is that we don't currently have the community support for this project. We don't have social licence at this time to proceed. I think we need to listen to those who are funding it. The community are funding this project overall very significantly. 10, I'm not sure if it's 10 or 11 at the moment, because the budget was revised to 16 million last time it came.
Sorry, Councillor, are you talking to X or W? I thought you were talking about
I'm speaking
Cliff
to
Road.
both. They're both connected. Sorry,
Right.
I was just going to speak to them both because they're
Okay. No, that's fair enough.
intrinsically connected. We either do both or we don't. There's no point building a road to nowhere. So I don't mind if they're voted together unless anyone wants to separate them. I had intended to move them as one. So not only is there the capital cost of the road and the marae, but there is the ongoing operational grant, which is over 900,000 within the next 3 years. That's an ongoing cost. And I mean, my observation when going through the accounts, through the budgets, looking at some of our other facilities, we've got the Conference and Function Centre, which has over $1 million deficit a year. We've got Wild Base, which is a significant, I think, $800,000 or $900,000 deficit a year. Buildings do not look after themselves by any stretch of the imagination. They require significant investment every year in terms of the upkeep, the operational and the renewals. So I'm aware of the upfront cost, but I'm also very mindful of the ongoing cost. With the deficit with the Conference and Function Centre, which has been, we've been made aware of that over the last few years, that there's just not, that deficit has grown actually from a few years ago, and there was going to be some focus on that. I'm really concerned that whilst the events may not be in exactly the same nature of those that gather at the Conference and Function Centre that will gather at the marae, but I do think that having more facilities will dilute the amount of groups that we actually have to be able to host, and I am concerned at the impact that will have on other venues across the city. In terms of, I have no doubt that they will all be used, but whether each venue ends up having a high level of deficit as a result of having so many. So there's a number of things that I've said there, but it's a difficult thing to talk about. I know it's probably not a popular thing to put on the table, but for the sake of the feedback that I've heard from the community, I felt it needed to be put on the table today.
Colleagues, don't vote for this. It's another whipping boy, and unfortunately the councillor is continuing to relitigate. There was nothing in our plan. We talked about the management of Te Matua Patoa. We didn't talk about whether we were going to get rid of it. This is a joint venture with a partner. They've placed this in the highest significance of their relationship with us. there's misinformation that we're funding the whole thing. There's $5 million coming from our partners. So we put up $2, they put up $1. If you destroy this now, it's pretty irreparable. So there are negotiations happening right at the moment around external funding for this. Now, if the external funding doesn't turn up, then Councillor Naylor might get her wish. But please, don't jump early. And I encourage you to send a strong signal around what this project means to the city. If you go to events, you'll know that the conference centre and this will be totally different. To say that they're the same is not right. It's not right at all. And it is a civic marae that our partners are putting significant resources into. It will give us a point of difference that this city and this region can be extremely proud of. We asked about the management of it, not relitigating, and I just put it out there that there has been consistent negativity about this project from a small group of people, and the misinformation is incorrect. So please don't vote for this. Councillor Dennison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can't support the deferment of a part of this roading project because already in this draft plan it's been adjusted to recognise that we aren't going to expend the 3 point something odd million in the first year, and so we've already adjusted it accordingly for the timing and likelihood of spending over the course of this next financial year. So I'm very comfortable with the amount left in this next financial year. The merits and that the Mayor outlined of the project, and that it's pungent on pressing go with the contributions that we had put the fundraising targets. And the last update we had is that they likelihood of the outcome of that will be in the next, it's imminent, it's weeks. In the next weeks we'll know the outcome of those applications. And they total, I believe, one is a 3 million proposition, the other one's up to $1 million. We already have Rangatane's contribution committed. And so therefore, the agreement that we put this time last year as the proposition of funding mechanisms to press go on this are in train. And so we'll know in the next few weeks. So to tamper with this now, I think would be bad flavour, and I don't think it's worth considering. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, colleagues, and I do want to stand and support all of my councillor colleagues who I have immense respect for, particularly for Councillor Naylor. I want to support you as well because I completely agree that we should listen to the community who's paying for it. In my instance, it's my iwi rangitane that are contributing $2 million of our own money, not ratepayer money. As my previous speakers have said, there's another $4 million on the table, days or if not weeks away. And if any of my councillor colleagues can show me that other partners other than the ratepayers have contributed $6 million to one project, I would happily like to sit down and have that coffee and chat. So I urge you all, my councillor colleagues, again, who I have immense respect for, and staff particularly, to vote this down.
So that's 3 against. Is there anybody for this? Okay, hold on. Councillor Meehan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And all due respect to Councillor Fitzgerald as well. Councillor putting in 10 million, and that's not counting Cliff Road either. This is simply asking for a deferral for a year. We haven't got the other partners yet. We've heard they're coming next week, okay? I heard that a couple of weeks ago they were coming next week. Which next week, okay? So we haven't got those partners yet. When we do, are they going to run away if we decide to defer it for a year? They're going to disappear. Well, they weren't really in it if they're going to disappear. We're going to defer it for a year. So the simple thing is, we've heard from a lot of people that they're quite happy to see this deferred for a year, to see this put out for a while. They're not in support of it majorly. And it's in full respect to Rangatahi and everything. We all see it's a great project, and we know it'll be really good once it's done and finished. We know it'll be excellent, but maybe not right now. Maybe now is just not the right time.
Is anybody else against this? For this? I've got to get my... Councillor McLeod, a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to ask staff advice around the deferment of Tomato Potoa project. What are the impacts of deferring it for 1 year?
Kathy Deaver-Todd, Manager Parks and Reserves. There is a quantity surveyor has done an estimate on the cost escalation as a result of a deferral, and that has been estimated at $500,000 if we defer the project itself. If we did not provide any funding for the design and consenting component, then that would cause a delay in getting started. We haven't got resource consent yet. However, we intend that that would be, that has been anticipated that would be completed, and procurement would have been completed and then construction started. If we deferred Cliff Road, the intention at the moment is construction of Cliff Road would largely be finished prior to the construction of the building. So as has been highlighted, they cannot be separated. But the main implications are cost escalation, and obviously with external funding parties, expectations that if they give us funding and we have resource consent, then we're ready to go, we're shovel ready.
And that's the same for Tomato Potoa?
Correct.
Great.
Okay, back to you, Councillor. Oh, okay, all right. Okay, so we've got both. W is both, it's Cliff Road. Deferring Cliff Road and deferring Tomato Potoa. So we will vote, please. And that is lost, 6 votes for and 10 against. Okay, coming to X, which is removing program 2499, Smart Cities budget of 51,000, and that's moved by Councillor Naylor, seconded by Councillor Wood. Councillor Naylor.
Thank you. This should be slightly quicker, I hope. Smart Cities, the description that was provided by the officers led me to believe that I didn't think we would miss much if it was gone. It's one that was identified from the community who felt it wasn't something they really wanted us to be doing as well. Last year through the LTP process, they seemed to be more aware of it than I was, in fact. But yeah, I think this is an easy one to defer, or to remove, sorry.
Colleagues, I'm just not sure we're simplifying some of the commentary there. Can I just get a question first before I comment from the officers? This program is effectively what we're opening tomorrow with different partners. Is that right?
Sarah Morris, General Manager, People and Capability. Yes, okay. You should be correct.
All right. It's not simple at all. It's got partners with it. It's what, and I think some people get mixed up with a bit of misinformation around 15-minute cities and all of that baloney around what they believe are smart cities. This is around utilising AI, sensors, making our city go better. We've got partners in Christchurch, partners with Manawa Tech. There's absolutely no way we should be ditching this. If anything, we should be going harder and faster. So again, just want to dispel the misinformation. This is something we should be continuing with. And we were going to launch it tomorrow. So don't go there, councillors, please. There's no others. So Councillor Naylor, you want to write a reply?
Yeah, just briefly, I have located the answer to that question. It's things such as sensors, cameras and networking technologies, It's enabling real-time data collection and event analysis. It really still, I'm fascinated to hear that it's being launched tomorrow. We've heard very little about it, but it still strikes me as in the non-essential category, and I think we could do without it.
All right, colleagues. Oh, sorry, Councillor Dennison.
I was,
No. Sorry, I thought you were asking a question. That was a right of reply.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I have to be fair. So we're going to vote on X, which is removing the budget. Please vote. And that has lost 4 votes for and 11 against. Okay, we move through to our next one. Right, where are we? Okay, Y. Amending program 2231, public transport, additional bus shelters to 400,000 was 204,000 in draft annual budget, $600,000 reduction from officer suggestion of 1 million. This is moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Naylor. Councillor Wood.
Quite straightforward argument here, councillors. It was only supposed to be a $204,000 budget. $400,000 will allow for approximately 10 new shelters to be installed each year, a significant step up in our level of service, and we can just spread it over time. Hope you can support.
Councillor Dennison.
Mr. Mayor, couldn't ever support knowing that we've got whatever it was, 50 bus things going to be taken up at. That's going to make the program a 5-year program by the sounds of it, with 40,000 to do 50 bus shelters. The officer said that there would be recommended for 2 years, but I'd be still open to delay it, and even at 3-year program would be around a $700,000 project per year. And so I'm going to make an amendment to the recommendation before us that the additional bus shelters to 700,000, which would basically slow it down to be a 3-year program. So instead of 1 million, it's 700,000, and we'll do that over 3 years. So that would be my moderation, and I'll look for a seconder to do it at that pace.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Harpiter. Okay, just give us a moment to. Okay, we're now discussing the amendment, and colleagues, I'll go to you, Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Colleagues, for those of you keeping track, do just note 4:40 in your diary for the day is when the auction began. I don't really think we should be pushing this number around in any way. I don't find 400 acceptable. I don't find 700 acceptable. The reality is we could be doing that work and actually fixing the network within a year. It's already going quite slow at taking 24 months to fix it. The reality is that we're actually backfilling a whole lot of loss here, where we've taken bus routes have been moved from the likes of Broadway into Main Street, and now we've got significant gaps in terms of the network and in terms of service for people that are using that bus service, and we know that those numbers are well up. This absolutely has partners involved. Horizons has invested heavily to bring us the new network. We need to make sure that we're actually meeting our end of the bargain. I'll just speak to 2 groups that I've certainly heard a bit from, and I think we can relate to in terms of those that are often most frequent users of the network. One is elderly. So I've heard from them about concerns in terms of needing to wait in you know, the weather conditions. It's not always a beautiful sunny day in the Manawatu. About, you know, the fact that there's uneven surfaces, that there's mud and brambles in some of those places where they have to wait. Like, there's a really low level of service currently. We actually do need to make sure that we're looking after those elderly users of the network. And the others as students, you know, we talked before just about how important it is, our relationship with tertiary institutes. Some of them are still very keen on having students present in the city and present on campus. Those students use buses. Having students arrive wet and soggy to class, not great. So honestly, this is simple, basic infrastructure, and $1 million gets us halfway there over the course of a year, and there's still another half to go in the next year. So I'd urge you to reject the 700K, reject the 400K, and actually allow us to do this full project in the 2 years so that we can get the full network up and running. Thank you.
Councillor Bellin.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with my colleague. I would argue that it's not a step up, let alone a significant step up. We have, well, not only are people walking longer to get to their bus stops now, but the shelters that we had have been discontinued. So people will be standing in the rain this winter at our bus stops while our stranded assets are sitting in storage because of timing of government decisions. So I am in favour of the officer's suggestion, and will be voting in favour of that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the points have been clearly made. I think, again, this is just really just a, it's kind of a bit of a mash-up in terms of managing to get things done when it's basically sort of there ready and waiting. I'm often down in Main Street, down towards Memorial Park there, and often see people actually waiting out in the elements where they should be actually in a bus shelter. Slowing this thing down is just really, I think, just being a little bit pedantic, and we need to actually get the infrastructure in place. Thank you.
All right. I'm actually going to support it because I think it's. I wasn't going to support the original one, and I do think it goes some way to achieving what we're trying to achieve. But it is, yep, it is simple, basic infrastructure, but it actually is quite costly. And 2 years to 3 years, I think, is acceptable. So bearing in mind that the ratepayer, we don't run the buses, and the ratepayer is picking up the tab for everything here of the city. So I'm quite happy to support Councillor Dennison's amendment there. Do you want to write a reply there? No? Okay, all right. We're going to vote on Y, which is the amendment to the amendment part. Thank you. In red. And that is passed, 9 votes for and 7 against. Okay, we need to vote on the substantive part. We'll put that up. No, we'll vote on the substantive, please. That's 12 votes for and 3 against. Yeah. Do we need to do that now? Do we need to do it or not? Just give us 1 moment. We're just going to align things here. So we're just aligning this to what we've just voted for. So I'm quite happy to move that. Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Naylor. Colleagues, I'm not going to speak to this because it's just we've just debated it in the last one. All right, we will vote on this, please. That has passed 15 votes for and 1 against. Okay, 3A or 3B? A little bit 2A or 2B, but anyway, this is around either A, Council adopts option 1, which is maintaining the status quo with no changes to the existing layout for left-hand turning lanes into Rangitikei Street from Featherston Street at no cost, or B, a number of different options. I'm not going to read them all out. You've seen them, they've been in your papers. The numbers are eye-watering, and I'm going to move A, 3A. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Hancock. Colleagues, we have explored this and with the greatest of intentions, and I've just read the officer report again just to confirm that I'm making the right call, in my opinion. There's debate whether that would even comply, even if we did all the work. There's simply the footpath or carriageway is just not large enough, and it's still eye-watering at $750,000 to change. Seconder was Councillor Naylor. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hancock. Yeah, my apologies. It gives me no joy in saying we can't do something, but at least we're going to explore what we can do with supporting Palmerston North Boys High and the offloading of boys and buses and everything into the future, possibly. So not all has been defeated. So I'll now go to colleagues. Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And like you, I concur that this is the best way forward, keeping the balance that is there. The reality is mixing bikes and pedestrians doesn't usually end that well, especially in busy places. And likewise, mixing bikes and cars doesn't work that well. So keeping it separate as we have in the current configuration is the best outcome there in terms of safety, access for all road users, and balance across the modes. Thank you.
Councillor Wood.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I am disappointed. We've just taken $3.3 million out of the capital program, and this is $700,000 I'd be very comfortable putting back in. As I said at the time, I would find money to do it. And I believe we have found the capital available in our budget to do it. We've also got a further $10 million that's coming to us from the officers. But this is one of the few capital projects I believe we need to add back in. It has been incredibly clear from our community that one of the largest points of frustration with the Featherston Street program is the removal of that left-hand turn bay, which means if you want to turn left and go straight through, if somebody is at the top of the lane that's waiting to turn left, you end up only being able to get a few cars through. So I think it was very much worth looking into, and if I was to get lucky and this was to fail, I'd be more than willing to move option 2, that we do look moving it in to create a shared use pathway. It works in hundreds of other cities around the world and a number of other cities in New Zealand, Christchurch, for example, where they use shared use pathways around particularly difficult intersections. If that absolutely wasn't workable, then we could look at what option 4 is, which is putting in line markings indicating cyclists can remain on that road in that space like we do in most other intersections around the city. So I think this is one of the few programs that I think we need to fix the mistake that we've made, and it would be worth fixing in that way. So I would encourage you, councillors, for the sake of the community feedback we've had alone, vote against this and vote for option 2 if we have the opportunity to put it up.
Councillor Harpiter.
Totally in agreement with Councillor Wood. I don't like this recommendation. I thought we'd gone through this already, and I thought the proposals that were put up were really sensible, and that's why I thought we were going down that track. We've actually had the feedback already from our community, and I feel like we've gone backwards and done a U-turn. So honestly, I just don't like these recommendations at all, and I won't be supporting them. I'm sorry, but if the other one was put up, I would have supported it. So I'm sorry, I won't be supporting this one.
Councillor Hancock.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We have four options. The first one is actually no cost, and that's a significant saving to our ratepayers. Option two, which Councillor Wood decides that he quite likes that, $750,000, which would not pass a safety audit. Option three, widening the footpath, $1.5 million, and that does not even include the land acquisition. And then the fourth option is to put in some painted sharrows and throw our cyclists at the bloody mercy of the road users. So this was only completed in 2024. It's hardly tested yet. 90% of that was funded by Wakatai, not the City Council. Any additional cost is actually going to be at a cost to our ratepayer. 100% of it. To recap from the work that was actually done in terms of the audit of the work that's been done, we've had a 60% reduction in crashes. We've got less heavy traffic, reduced speeds, more bus passengers, more pedestrians, more cyclists. Our road is our road, it is that wide. Our population is growing, which means that there will be more traffic. But more traffic on the road, there is less space, there is more congestion. So what do? You have to manage your traffic flows. And that is a very, very good example of how we do it. And for those of you that think just because we've got some people who are very noisy and say they don't like it, you decide you're going to spend a whole heap of ratepayers' money unnecessarily providing a left-hand turn. It's just bad judgment. And it's bad governance. This is integrated also to Paniti. So there are dependencies sitting in here which you need to be aware of. And those dependencies should also govern your decision-making processes. It's bizarre that we would actually contemplate spending $1 million or more on something which, in all likelihood, would fail a safety audit, and it won't solve the problem. So please, use your common sense. Thank you.
Councillor Dennison.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I am going to vote against this one because I believe, like Councillor Wood, I think if we were to poll the city's residents of do they want to reinstate the left-hand turn lanes, I think it would be quite a clear signal back to us that it would be a resounding yes, and we shouldn't have changed it in the first place. And option two, to my mind, seems like an investment when we can, considering everything else that we're doing in our capital projects, is one that I think the city residents would actually look to us to support. It's unfortunate, the outcome of it. Like, this doesn't go back into some of the review of the costings that we had to remove the in-lane bus stops, because some of those quotes that come through were like through the roof, which I thought I could have found a few other contractors do it well less than $250 a removal of a bus stop, each bus stop. And so the same ways as this goes, I think you'd find some contractors in town that would want to probably give us a preferential rate just to be seen to put that left-hand turn back in order well in less than the 747,000 being quoted here. There'll be a number of contractors that say, look, I'll be happily being seen to support the city, get this back right, and quote well under that. So I've got the voice of the community quite clearly in my ear, and so I'm going to oppose three on this basis. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, we've had 3 for, 3 against. you've all made your points. I don't think I need to have a right of reply. So we'll just vote, please. So we're voting 3 for option 1. That has passed 10 votes for and 6 against. We need to vote now to extend the meeting. So, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. So, guys, I'm not going to scare you, but I'm just going to give us a bit of room. So I'm going to extend the meeting till 7 p.m. and we will vote. That's passed 16 votes for and none against. Thank you. We'll just go back to our catch-all. Oh. Councillor Naylor.
I'd be happy to move the...
Yeah, I'm just coming to that.
Oh, well, I just didn't want you to get the catch-all without doing that. I'm happy to move or second this document.
So just let me come to that. Just give us a moment, we're just getting the wording correct. Okay, so in terms of the table document, i.e. the large A3 sheet, our resolution is round Council agreeing the proposed capital new program budget reductions set out in the tabled item to the meeting of today, the 14th of May 2025, except programs 1846, 1847 and 902, which we've already dealt with in previous resolutions. I'm happy to move that, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Colleagues, I think they're all fair and reasonable. They've got some rationale and some advice behind them from officers in various different units and sections. It still keeps the ship moving and projects underway, but perhaps with a slightly more realistic end time, bearing in mind that we've got carry forwards from this year, and also things like growth programs with understanding with where development partners, also utilities and NZTA and the like, where they are at. So happy to move that, and I'll open it up for any comments. Councillor Johnson.
I'd like to move an amendment, please. So I'd like to exclude 2452, which is community gardens water supply. 1099, which is parks and reserves shade development. Sorry. 1138, which is city library digital technology. And 1139, which is city library RFID materials management.
Councillor, I'm quite happy to add them into the original. Oh, sorry, I've just been told it's capital new that we're doing. The ones,
Well, they're on the list as capital renewal.
They're on the
those
list.
two. Yeah, but you said this, the table document, didn't you? So I assumed that it was those two were included, because they're on the list. I understand that, but I'm just making sure.
Okay, look, I'm happy to put into the original recommendation, if the seconder is, that we will put in the capital new ones, which are accepting 2452 and 1099.
Okay, and then the two library renewals will come later when we do
And the
renewal.
two library renewals we can deal to in a later one.
Okay, thank you.
Are you okay with that? That's around shade trees and parks and reserves and community gardens. So can we just have a little bit of wording around that? Just, if we could just wait for the admin people just to catch up. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're including those, I don't think I need to comment. Thank you. Just in terms of speeding us on.
Yep, thank you. Thank you for reminding me, because I was of the same opinion. Councillor Bellin.
Thank you. I also just had a question, just to harp on about it, with number 1004, the Whakaronga water supply, which is on this list for deferral, but it says there's a significant risk to the Stony Creek Road if it's deferred, and that the motion to defer the Stony Creek Road work did fail. So if we're progressing with that work, does 1004
Sorry, Councillor, before you get into it, it's a growth program. We're going to do that later. We're going to do that next.
Oh, right, okay, thanks.
Okay, so we're just dealing with capital new. Sorry, I probably didn't make that really, really clear. So this is just capital new. There actually is a number of other ones there around capital renewal and capital. There's quite a few capital growth. So we're just dealing with the capital new, which is everything that's on that sheet except what's on the recommendation there, which is 5 programs. 3 we've already dealt with and 2 very small ones which we're excluding. Are we crystal clear? Good. We will vote. That's passed, 16 votes for, none against, thank you. Right, we've got a catch-all now to come. And this is around Council 1C, Council instructing the CE to prepare a draft annual budget for 2025-26 for consideration and adoption by the Council at its meeting on the 4th of June 2025, and that incorporates the following capital new programs, including carry forwards and amendments as outlined in the annual budget 25-26, schedule of proposed capital new programs, attachment 5, with amendments as agreed above. I'm happy to move that, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Colleagues, we've gone through this. We don't need to debate it again. We will vote. That has passed 15 votes for and 1 against. Okay, colleagues, what we're going to do, we're going to have a couple of minutes, so we'll be back for those online in the chamber at 5:15. I can tell you now that the next part, we're in the home straight. We've got very little to do after this, unless somebody brings up something extra. All right, looking at capital growth, and we have a number of tabled reductions, and we have that council recommendation is council agree the proposed capital growth program budget reductions as set out in tabled item to our meeting today on the 14th of May 2025, and one, that council instruct the chief executive to prepare a draft annual budget 25-26 for consideration and adoption by the council at its meeting on the 4th of June 25, and that it incorporates the following: D, capital growth programs including carry forwards and amendments as outlined in annual budget 25-26, schedule of proposed capital growth programs, attachment 6, with any amendments as agreed above. I'm happy to move that, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Colleagues, that's the, I'll get this right, in the column, in terms of capital type, that's the capital growth, and there's 8 items there around recreation and play, roading, stormwater and water projects. They're from officers, and I'm happy to accept those in the capital growth going forward. If there's no comments to that, there is. Councillor Spellin.
Thanks. Just the same question that I asked before on 1004, on whether that marks up 2335 if it doesn't go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor. Mike Monaghan, Manager of Three Waters. No, it shouldn't have any great impact. What we're proposing here is a slight reduction to the $917,000 budget down to $717,000 budget. We still think we can do the design and the installation within that envelope of funding, and we're proposing to get onto that next year so that that work is done before the roading work commences. Okay. One of the issues would be if Glenn went and built a new road and then we went and dug it up to put a water pipe in there. So that's the timing should be okay.
Okay, thank you. That's reassuring. Thanks.
Can I just ask one question before we vote on it too, and that's the top one around recreation and program 2527 around urban growth, country reserves development of 234,000. It says that can be deferred. Council has a commitment to deliver planting and walkways, but the timing's not set. My understanding, there is some discussions going on with developers there. Is the time frame you're suggesting okay? What happens if a deal's struck? You just bring it back to us.
Kathy Devertodd, Manager Parks and Reserves. The money that was set aside for next year was for planting in the gullies. We have been trying to resolve some issues with the developer out there in relation to stormwater. Once that's confirmed, we would go with planting. So actually this deferral has no impact. Okay, good. Well, that's all I need to know.
Okay, no other comments. We will vote, please. That's passed, 16 votes for and none against. Right, we now go to capital renewals, and we do have a couple of those. So we've got, we've started a new alphabet now, AB. So we're now to AB, and that's around reducing program 1879, council vehicles by 500,000, was 1,791,000, and it's changed to now 1,291,000. Moved by Councillor Wood, second by Councillor Naylor. Councillor Wood.
Well, colleagues, this is the last one from me, so we're almost there. This is the sister recommendation to what we did with the capital new. This program, there are answers to what it funds in the, sorry, I should have had this ready ahead of time, I believe it's the third tranche. Yes, the third tranche of questions. So this renewing of council vehicles, in my opinion, is not a high priority at this time for the same arguments that we've given earlier and can be reduced for this year. Budget is for 2 rubbish trucks, 2 tractors, 1 wheel loader, 7 utes, 6 cars and 4 vans. So the argument here is that the light vehicle fleet could be delayed in its renewal and we can focus on renewing the heavy vehicles this year. So for the same reasons as before, I don't believe it's a good idea in the climate and given the arguments that we've had from our community around unaffordability of rates to be going out and purchasing whole new fleets of vehicles. So I hope you can support this.
Councillor Naylor.
Yeah, I'm supportive of this and just want to give a quick overview of why I am interested in some reductions in the renewal space. I mean, we've made some really good progress in terms of the capital new and growth, but if we can actually reduce renewals a little bit, that will have a meaningful rating impact. And we've got about 1.8% of the rates increase at the moment that is directly related to the amount that we've stepped up our renewals, because we were doing 32.9 million this year and we're proposing 34.8 next year. So a $1.9 million increase does have a fairly significant impact. So once again, the council vehicles, we would still be retaining 1.29 million in there for renewals. I think this would be a sensible way to save a little bit of the rating impact on our ratepayers this year.
There's no other speakers. Do you need a... No, you don't. Thank you. Being smart. Well done. We will vote, please, on AB. That is passed, 14 votes for and 2 against. Okay, the next one is AC, and this is around reducing program 281, the City Administration Building, CAB renewals by 102,000, was 204, and it'll now be changed, it's basically cut in half to 102. Moved by Councillor Naylor, second by Councillor Wood. Councillor Naylor.
Same rationale as the previous item, really, trying to look at some capital renewals where the impact to our ratepayers should be hopefully a little bit more minimal. And there are some, this looks like it's a program that's just sort of rolled over. There are some other renewal in there for specific items as well, such as furniture and other things. So I thought this one perhaps could be moderated a little bit.
Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, I'm not going to support this, and it is one of these areas that always seems to come up for cutting. You can't indefinitely postpone renewals in the CAB, and actually I think it sends the wrong message to staff about their value and whether or not we think it's important that they have, furniture that's not falling apart or, decent facilities to work in. So to me, it speaks about what's important in terms of for staff. I don't think that the renewals budget is excessive for the CAB at 204,000, and I don't see any need to reduce it, and I just think it's become one of these easy targets that gets targeted annual budget after annual budget, and I'm not prepared to support it. Thank you.
Councillor Harpender.
I won't support this either. I think this is a little wee one. I know it's 100,000, but I just don't think it's worth putting up onto the chopping block, so I won't support this change. Thank you.
All right, Councillor, you would write a reply?
Just briefly, in response to Councillor Johnson's comment about furniture, there is a $31,000 budget in there for furniture replacement as well. So I'm confident that that is looked after.
Okay, so this is around deferring, reducing the renewals in this building. We will vote, please, on AC. and that has failed. 6 votes for, 10 against. Okay, move through now to AD, and this is around deferring 610,000 from program 1127, the Shade House and Bonsai display, to the 27-28 year, and this is from Councillor Naylor and Councillor Wood. Okay, so it's Councillor Wood.
I told a lie 2 recommendations ago, I apologise. The thinking here is that this is a program that's gotten a little bit out of scope at $610,000. I spoke to former councillor Susan Beattie, who I'm aware used to be called Susan's Bonsais, and she said when this started it was around 100,000, and now we're talking 600,000. The suggestion is let's just defer it and work at rescoping this project as it's got a little bit outside of what is strictly necessary. I'm all for looking after the bonsais up until that point, but at 610,000 that probably is over my appetite for what I'm happy to support, and I suspect that might be the feeling for some other councillors. So let's defer it and work on what we can do to make this a little bit more of a reasonably scoped project.
Okay, can I just ask a question before I make some comments, if I do it all, from officers? This is attached to the Peter Black Conservatory, and for those that don't know where that is, that's in the Esplanade. And this is the entranceway to that, am I correct?
That is correct. Sorry, Kathy Dever-Todd, Manager Parks and Reserves. The intention with this program is to replace the Shade House, which is also the entry. An engineer's report 2 years ago identified that it had a year's life remaining. The bonsai display is a small display within the Shade House, so this is a pure renewal of a structure that is at end of life.
Okay. Colleagues, I'm going to support it because I think for those that know that we called it Councillor Beattie, former Councillor Beattie's Bonsai House, because it had been kicking around for a while. And for those that know what the bonsai collection is, it's a nationally significant collection. It's small, but it sits in our former nursery and it's been loved and cared by our nursery team. It deserves a place because it was given to the city by a former Masterton doctor, actually, who was, and we have some national experts in bonsai trees in the city. It's been kicked round. Councillor Wood is right. It has gone through various iterations of what it was going to look like. And I think that's why we've brought, and probably hasn't been well explained by officers, but it has been brought back into the conservatory entranceway Shade House itself, because these trees are expensive. They'll be stolen if they're not under lock and key. Hence the Shade House. And the Shade House is that funny structure that's at the front of the Peter Black Conservatory, which is nationally renowned. So we are adding to our, or replacing, adding, renewing our significant assets. So I'm going to vote against this and look to continue the program. The Esplanade, again, is just a fantastic and proud asset of the city, and we should continue to maintain and support it. I hope you agree. Councillor Spellin.
Thank you. I also just had a couple of questions. You've asked my first one. The second is, did we hear in the LTP that the structure is pretty shaky, and if it's not replaced, it will have to be pulled down?
Kathy Dever-Todd, Manager Parks and Reserves. This, the Shade House replacement, the engineer's report 2 years ago signalled had a year's worth of life. This asset really is at end of life. Probably not that it would have to be pulled down, but it would most likely have to close due to its structural integrity. In the LTP, the funding for this project was spread over 2 years, and officers put forward to the draft annual budget process that it all be brought forward into this year. We are ready to go on this project. It has got consent and its procurement because we believe it is that imminent that it needs to be replaced.
Thank you. That was my second question. Well, yeah, then I would also oppose this one. I am wary of kicking this too much further down the road where it's just about to fall over, and we have got the design in place, the building consent is secured, and where procurement is underway with a view to being able to complete construction prior to December
of this year. Seems to me that it's a structure that's been in place for at least 30 years, and if we just get it done, it'll be in place for another 30 years. We can just stop mucking around and get on with it.
Councillor Finlay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't support this. I'll vote against it. And I think the reason for voting against it is actually being given by the mover. He spoke to Councillor Beattie when it was $100,000. But we deferred it, and we've deferred it, and we've deferred it. And now it's, oh my goodness, $600,000. If we hadn't deferred it back then, it would have been $100,000. And the ratepayers would have been a much better off today. So if we're going to defer it again, maybe it'll be $100,000 next year. Who knows? But let's get it done before we defer it anymore.
Okay, does anybody want to vote for this? Okay, right. Write a reply? No, don't. Don't. Read the room. Okay, we'll vote. Okay, we've just got a few technical issues, and you're very lucky, councillor, so we're going to re-vote. Is it? No, we'll vote again, please. I've got to remember what I'm voting for. Okay, so this is, yeah, okay. Oh, no, you did vote right. So 3 votes for and 13 against. So it has failed. We're sorry, we can't display it. Apologies. We've just got a little technical issue which has just happened. Okay, so we are now, this is 1E around capital renewals. This is the catch-all. One that council instruct the chief executive to prepare a draft annual budget 25-26 for consideration and adoption by the council at its meeting on the 4th of June 25, and that incorporate the following: A, capital renewal programs including carry forwards and amendments as outlined in the annual budget 25-26 schedule of proposed capital renewal programs, attachment 7, with amendments as agreed above. I'm happy to move that, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. And I'm not going to add in the 2 outstanding tiny little carry forwards there, but Councillor Naylor.
Yeah, I was keen to move those 2.
Is there a seconder?
For inclusion.
Yep. Just before you go any further, is a seconder? There is none. We'll carry on with what we're doing. So we've got 1E, which is around the amendments as agreed above. So I'll ask, I'm not going to speak to it, it's pretty straightforward. I'll ask you to vote, please.